We are moving into a world where we've got central banking independence really a question. We've never had that in my 40-year career in Wall Street. I'll tell you a funny story. I was trading.
Do you guys think the 4-year cycle's over for crypto in general? Or do you think that like end of this year, there's some sort of top and next year is back into a bear market?
It's a great question. I spent all night thinking about it.
Don't worry, so do I.
And of course, the market got the living shit kicked out of it today, right? So I guess we should have sold it. Listen, these are very hard calls. We are moving into a world where we've got central banking independence really a question. We've never had that in my 40-year career in Wall Street. And so depending on who Trump picks as the next Fed governor, it could kick off a whole freaking mega cycle, right? We throw so many independence into the toilet and crypto's going a lot higher, right? And so the political situation makes that prediction harder. Mm-hmm. The Fed just cut rates. They're going to cut at least one more time, probably two more times. Is it strange they cut rates when the stock market's on an all-time high, gold is on an all-time high, crypto's on? Yeah, it is. There was political pressure, some. But they are also wrestling with this thing we never had to think about before, which was AI, the great job destroyer. Mm. And it's going to destroy jobs. You can see it already, especially young people's jobs, high-paying ones. And so what AI does to this world, if anyone thinks they really know, they're out of their minds. It's so complicated. And so there's a lot more uncertainty in macro than I've ever seen, which makes calling the top of the cycle much more difficult.
The other thing I would add is, Mike just touched on executive branch, Fed independence. But, I honestly think what might end up being the biggest thing when we look back in 20 years is Congress. And we just passed the Genius Act a couple months ago. Stablecoins are now recognized by the United States Congress. I think we're going to get the Clarity Act passed hopefully in the next couple months here. Fingers crossed. I was in DC last week talking with Senator Scott and a bunch of others on some of these issues. And then, of course, we have Chair Paul Atkins, who announced Project Crypto. And he said unequivocally, we're going to move U.S. securities markets on chain. It's with that backdrop, it's, I think probably the right historical comp to think about here is the Telecommunications Act of 1996. And when Congress passed that act and President Clinton signed it, that is really what laid the groundwork for the internet to grow. It gave companies the confidence to build fiber, for guys like Cisco to build all the routers and the infrastructure, for Intel to build all the chips and all the memory and all that stuff, for Microsoft and all the software makers, to make all the apps. And I think the Genius Act and now soon the Clarity Act, when we look back 20 years from now, it's going to be pretty obvious that was the watershed moment. And so, we just feel incredibly excited about this. I'd say the last thing I would say is, there's I think 6 billion people have a smartphone today in the world, something like that. There's 8 billion people on the planet. Obviously, that'll get to 8 billion here in the next few years. And Google and Apple were never going to add native support for stablecoins in iOS and Android until stablecoins were fully blessed federally to be legal. That's happened. I don't know when Apple and Google are going to enable stablecoins as a first-class citizen in iOS and Android, but at this point, you can kind of assume the probability that that's going to happen is 100%. Maybe it's in 26, maybe it's in 27, maybe it's in 28. I obviously don't know anything about their timing. But, we've got David Sachs as crypto czar in the White House. Guarantee you he's been calling the folks at Apple and Google and telling them, hey guys, this is a matter of US interest to promote the growth of stablecoins around the world. Build this into iOS and Android as a first-class primitive.
Are you trading when the Telecommunications Act in 1996 happened?
I was a macro trader in Asia. Yeah.
Do you remember anything that's noteworthy?
I'll tell you a funny story. I was trading the Thai baht, Asian interest rates, S&P. So pretty much macro, focused on currencies and interest rates, derivatives. And my mother called me up in late 99. And I had made partner at Goldman Sachs.
Congratulations.
Feeling good. I was rich for the first time in my life. And I was feeling like a middle-class kid. Dad was in the Army. My mom's like, all my friends own Amazon, and you didn't tell me about Amazon, and everyone on the street's making money on Amazon, and I'm making nothing. And I'm thinking on the street we lived on, the biggest Amazon position was probably $2,000. But I was like, geez, I did miss the entire internet. And so I decided I was not going to miss the Chinese internet. And I made a huge investment in a guy named Micah Truman. Dumb idea. Coke bottle glasses, white guy, spoke perfect Chinese, and he had all these email addresses, 20 million Chinese internet email addresses. There was only 30 million Chinese internet users at the time. And of course that went to zero. And I thought to myself later, I was at Goldman Sachs. In our office, one floor up, Alibaba was coming through, Tencent, all the great Chinese internet companies were getting started right about there. I could have put $100,000 in 6 of them instead of $600,000 in one, and probably thrown a dart at the dartboard. I think I hit the only zero. They all actually exploded up. And so I've always come to the conclusion early on in these moves, like when I started in crypto, I was in all kinds of ecosystems. I still think, don't be so arrogant that you're going to know exactly how it plays out. Spread your bets a little bit. This is going to be a while. I think Kyle's 100% right. This is going to be a watershed moment. And up until now, crypto's been a story. It's been more than a story in that Bitcoin is a store of values and stablecoins overseas are a big deal. But broadly in the US, it's been a story. And we're going to go from story to rebuilding infrastructure. And that's going to happen in the next 2 to 10 years. And as that infrastructure, as things move on chain, things are going to change much faster. Think of a company like Pomp.fund, which runs on the Solana blockchain. That thing exploded. They've got a great token. I was talking to the founder at a party my son threw. The guy's 20, 21, good dude. And I'm like, you're the Pomp guy? And I was like, what's the next iteration? And if you think about what meme coins have done on the Solana blockchain is they gamified in lots of ways attention. Mm-hmm. Well, where do most kids spend all day? On TikTok, in Reels and Instagram. And you watch, you're going to gamify Reels, you're going to gamify TikTok, you're going to gamify all of it. You're going to have instant tokens on every freaking tweet you do. That stuff, millions and millions of transactions. I don't know if Pump's going to be the one who does it or someone else is. Again, Solana blockchain perfectly suited for those use cases. But as we move into a more digital world where everything is also gamified, because you're seeing that happen, like I just think the utility case for blockchains and then that case for bringing people into the community, so like, oh, I build on this. And that, so it's like utility plus narrative as opposed to just narrative. And that's going to be the big change.
I want to add something about live streaming. I think it's a super underappreciated element of these systems. So one of kind of the taglines of Solana is internet capital markets. We certainly believe that, folks at Galaxy and Jump do as well. And I think this kind of live streaming example that Mike was just talking about with Pomp kind of illustrates that. Most people look at, so with Pomp, anyone can go on there, do a live stream, create a token, engage with your fans and your followers. And it's a wild time. People have a ton of fun. And I think most people, probably people who are listening to the Pomp show, probably look at this and they're like, I have no idea what this is. I don't know how to make sense of this. And I think the way I'd help people try and understand what's happening is to think about entertainment finance. Entertainment finance 1.0 was Jim Cramer. Like, he was the first, and he figured out his formula. And look, you are now today your own version of that. Different kind of entertainment, right? Different style. You've got Roaring Kitty, you've got Dave Portnoy, you've got all these different flavors of it. And much in the same way that we went from with media, where there was just 5 TV channels, to now you've got social media where anyone can have a Twitter account or an Instagram account. The same is happening with these content creators and now asset issuers. And it is really the forefront of entertainment finance. And so when people look at this, I encourage you to try and really think about how is this evolving? And it's actually incredibly exciting to see what happens when you can unlock finance as a true first-class internet native primitive. And it's really all happening on Solana.
But I do think that, the essence of this point is that you guys are essentially using what is something that's native to this new digital world, and you're essentially arbing the fact that Wall Street will give you a bunch of money if you can then turn around and pay them yield back that you're able to generate in the digital world. There is this very interesting symbiotic relationship.
But you want to establish that you can raise capital. and lots of it. And then you take the next step. You say, okay, well, now let's put some data. You don't want to put that much leverage on the thing, but there's plenty of leverage you can put on. Just you could put 7% leverage on with knowing you're going to get that 7% back just in yield, right? And so there's a level of leverage you'll take. And, if you build a good enough story, then you can maybe do what Michael does and raise preferred. Like, that's a genius move. It took Michael 4 years, maybe 4 years. And what was interesting about MicroStrategy, it became its own community. Like, these work if they become communities. You think about what the core value prop in crypto so far has not been utility. It's been community, right? You're part of the XRP army. A lot of people don't use the XRP blockchain, but they really like the coin, right? What does it mean, like the coin mean? They trust the community to hold their value. That's what it is. And Michael Saylor created community around MicroStrategy, which was different than Bitcoin. People are MicroStrategy guys. They like it. It outperformed. And so the job is community. Like, that's what creates the value.
You guys are going to hold, let's say, billions of dollars of Solana. You're going to stake it, I'm assuming. That means you're going to get 7-8% off of that. That's free cash flow. What else are you going to do?
Yeah. So this morning, actually, we announced some news. We announced that we're tokenizing our stock using our partner Superstate natively on the Solana blockchain. And as part of that, we actually negotiated an ability to get equity in Superstate for basically being their flagship customer. Forward Industries is not laying out any cash for this equity. We have said to our investors publicly, and I've talked about this on Twitter and other podcasts, that we're going to use our reputation, our scale, and our willingness to do interesting things to negotiate accretive economics for our shareholders. We've been live for 2 weeks, and today we announced our first deal to that effect. We've got a whole bunch more in the pipeline, but being able to use our scale to actually get better economics, we think is a phenomenal way to deliver shareholder value.
And how big can these things get, right? Like, we obviously seen Strategy, we see Metaplanet, we see some of these, really large companies, but how big do you think that the altcoin treasury companies can actually get?
Listen, I think they can get a lot bigger than they are now. I was skeptical, to be fair, when Michael Saylor started it. MicroStrategy, I was like, okay, I got it. It's bringing people that couldn't get into the space. But when the ETF came out, I was like, well, why? And Michael did an amazing job of creating energy around MicroStrategy, created all kinds of different avenues to open the aperture of people that would look at his stock, from the converts first to the preferreds. And when you think about why treasury companies have worked better than a skeptic would have thought they would, because there's a ton of skeptics around treasury companies, and I was one. The amount of people that have access to fixed income and equity accounts is so much greater than people that have already set up crypto wallets. And for this moment in time right now, with the Fed cutting rates, with a government that can't seem to stop spending money, a perfect narrative for crypto, with equities at an all-time high, gold at an all-time high, crypto at an all-time high, opening up the aperture, bringing money into the space. It's happening through these treasury companies. And so when they trade poorly and they start trading to discounts or flat, it's bad for the overall crypto market, because that's where the buyers have come from. And so we watch that carefully. But that was part of it. And so, again, this DAT can be a whole lot bigger than it is today, but predicated on that is us doing a great job of convincing people there's value added with this team and a bull market. It's hard to make them much bigger in a really bad.
How do you guys mess this up, right? Like you raise a ton of money, you're buying an asset, you're driving the yield, like all that makes sense. Obviously, if the price goes down a lot, that wouldn't be fun, but still you would hold the assets, it would still yield, whatever. Like, how does this blow up?
It doesn't blow up. Like, the downside scenario for our DAT and for all DATs is that at one point, this beautiful, lovable, likable crypto bull market comes to an end. And we're like,
You love this one? This one is not really kicking off yet.
No, but well, listen, we're all a lot richer than we were a year ago. Anyone in this space, if you're not, you should just quit the space and actually become like a sower or something. I don't know. Like if you have not made money in the last 12 months, you don't deserve to be in the crypto business. But at one point, bull markets end. Who knows why? They run out of steam. The Fed pivots and says, oh, like we can't cut rates anymore. Like this was crazy. We shouldn't have been cutting in the first place. Like there's all kinds of scenarios where the bull market ends. And in a bear market, these things trade back to parity or even to discount to book. And
you just write it out.
Yeah, there's opportunities to do there. Like we're an asset manager, right? Kyle is the chairman of a company with $1.7 billion of assets. That's a lot of assets. Galaxy's managing those assets right now. There's a board that thinks of strategic things to do. There's ability to raise capital privately. There's ability to raise capital through ATM in the public markets. And so you do well like any other company would do. It might be boring for 6 months or a year because you're, less ability to bring in new capital. But it's still a substantial company. One of the reasons, and we debated, we wanted to start bigger is because we wanted to be substantial. Like a $1.7 billion asset manager is a big enough company as is. Mm-hmm. We expect this to become a $10 billion asset manager. Mm-hmm. That's the goal or higher. But if we got the timing perfectly wrong and we were stuck here for 18 months through a cycle, it's not the end of the world. There's not a disaster scenario for this.
Yeah. The other thing I want to flag, Pomp, is, like this is a publicly traded permanent capital vehicle. And ultimately, it's going to be up to the management team and the board to make capital allocation decisions to drive long-term value for shareholders. We're really fortunate between Multicoin, Jump, and Galaxy to have probably the three groups that are the most long-term oriented around thinking about Solana. I was very fortunate to meet Anatoly and Raj, and I led the Solana seed round back in early 2018. We have bridged the Solana team when they were running out of money way back in the day. We are one of the most active investors across the Solana ecosystem today. I think we've invested in 25 or 30 different Solana-based teams. And we have a very long-term view on how this stuff's going to play out, how value is going to accrue, how market structure is going to change. We're placing all these bets, have been through Multicoin and now as well through Forward Industries and guiding that. And at the end of the day, when you judge us in 5 years, the primary thing you should be judging us by is, did we make good capital allocation decisions? Given the knowledge base of the core teams here between Multicoin, Jump, and Galaxy, I feel pretty good that we're going to be able to navigate this well and knock it out.